The laboratory hummed with an electric tension that seemed to make the very air vibrate. Rows of alien students sat perfectly still, their various anatomical structures a kaleidoscope of biological diversity that would have stunned any human observer. At the front of the massive circular classroom, Professor Ravi adjusted the holographic display with his intricate multi-jointed tentacles. Una Park stood quietly beside him, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing the standard white research uniform that seemed almost mundane compared to the exotic beings surrounding her. She was the only human in this advanced xenobiology research center, located on a massive space station orbiting a distant binary star system. Kiro, an avian-like student with feathered skin that shifted colors based on emotional responses, kept glancing nervously at Una. Rumors about humans had spread throughout the galactic academic community, tales of beings from a planet so dangerous that everything seemed designed to kill its inhabitants. Humans were called Deathworlders, survivors of impossible conditions, walking biological anomalies. The classroom itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate multiple species. Adaptive seating pods adjusted to each student's unique physiological requirements. Some seats looked like liquid pools, others like crystalline structures, and some resembled complex mechanical supports that could transform in milliseconds. Professor Ravi's voice resonated through translation devices, creating a harmonious sound that each student could understand in their native communication patterns. Today, he announced, we have a special presentation from our human exchange student, who will demonstrate a standard cellular regeneration experiment. Whispers erupted among the students. A standard experiment? From a human? The concept seemed contradictory. Della, a crystalline biochemical life form sitting near the back, adjusted her spectral sensors. Her entire body was translucent, with internal structures that constantly shifted and realigned. She had heard stories about humans but never witnessed one up close. Una remained calm, her posture relaxed and professional. She knew the aliens were watching her, expecting something extraordinary or potentially catastrophic. To her, this was just another routine laboratory procedure. The holographic display behind her began to shimmer, preparing to project the experimental parameters. Complex scientific notation and molecular diagrams started to materialize, displaying intricate biological information that would have overwhelmed most undergraduate researchers. Kiro's feathers began to shift from a calm blue to a nervous green-yellow pattern. His species was known for their extreme sensitivity to environmental changes, and the mere presence of a human made his biological systems hyper-alert. Professor Ravi continued his introduction, explaining the significance of interspecies research and the importance of understanding diverse biological mechanisms. His tentacles moved in elegant, synchronized patterns that served both as communication and a method of maintaining complex holographic projections. The classroom was a perfect representation of galactic academic diversity. Students from over 30 different planetary systems sat ready to observe, their physiological differences a testament to the incredible variety of life in the universe. Some required atmospheric controllers integrated into their seating, others had specialized nutrient intake systems, and a few seemed to exist in states between solid and energy. Una adjusted her protective glasses, a simple gesture that somehow made the entire room hold its collective breath. What would this human do? What impossible biological feat would she demonstrate? Little did the alien students know that what Una considered a normal experimental procedure would challenge everything they understood about life, survival, and biological resilience. The stage was set. The experiment was about to begin. As Professor Ravi stepped back, giving Una the central stage, the tension in the room became almost tangible. Alien students leaned forward, sensors and sensory organs fully activated, ready to witness whatever was about to unfold. Una Park simply smiled, a small, confident expression that would soon change everything they thought they knew about biological science. Una's hands moved with practiced precision across the laboratory bench. Her equipment looked deceptively simple. A few glass containers, some standard pipettes, and a compact molecular analyzer that gleamed under the sterile white lights. To the human eye, it might have seemed like a routine high school science experiment. To the alien students, it looked like preparation for something potentially catastrophic. The first chemical she introduced was a pale blue liquid that seemed to shimmer slightly when exposed to light. Della, the crystalline life form, noticed immediately that the liquid's molecular structure was unlike anything in her extensive database. It was a standard human cellular growth medium, but to her it looked like a potentially destructive solution. Kiro's feathers began to pulse with rapid color changes, from calm blue to nervous yellow, then to an almost electric green. His species had evolved on a planet with minimal chemical interactions, and the mere sight of unknown liquids made his entire biological system go into high alert. Yuna remained completely calm. She measured precisely 2.5 milliliters of the blue liquid, her movement smooth and controlled. A small tissue sample sat in a transparent container, looking fragile and delicate under the magnified holographic projection. Professor Ravi watched closely, his multiple sensory tendrils extending slightly to capture every minute detail of the procedure. He knew humans were different, but watching one work was an entirely different experience. The first chemical treatment began. Yuna added a series of compounds that would have completely dissolved the biological structures of most known galactic species. To the alien students, it looked like she was preparing to destroy the sample. Their sensors began recording, expecting to document a spectacular cellular breakdown. But nothing happened as they expected. The tissue sample not only remained intact, but seemed to absorb the chemicals. Where other biological systems would have collapsed, this human tissue sample appeared to be processing the potentially harmful substances. Kiro's sensory apparatus began to tremble. Was this even possible? Della's crystalline structure started to vibrate with scientific excitement. Her internal analysis systems were working overtime, trying to comprehend what was happening. The cellular structure was not just surviving, it was adapting, changing, responding to the chemical introduction in ways that defied conventional biological understanding. Yuna continued her procedure, completely unaware of the growing tension in the classroom. To her, this was a standard regenerative research technique, something she had practiced countless times during her academic training on Earth. The holographic display began to show cellular-level changes. Molecular bonds were reforming, damaged structures were repairing themselves, and the tissue was maintaining its fundamental integrity, despite conditions that would have destroyed any other known biological system. Professor Ravi's translation. Device struggled to find the right words to describe what was happening. The human was conducting what she considered a normal experiment, but to the alien students it looked like a miracle of biological engineering. Thermal variations were introduced next. Temperature shifts that would have instantly killed most cellular structures became nothing more than a mild stimulus for this human tissue sample. The cells didn't just survive, they seemed to learn and adapt from the experience. Radiation levels were carefully controlled, but still at intensities that would have completely destroyed any known biological membrane. Yet the tissue sample continued to exist, its internal structures maintaining a remarkable stability that seemed to defy every known scientific principle. Kiro's sensory systems were overloading. His species had heard stories about humans, about their remarkable biological resilience, but witnessing it was something entirely different. This wasn't just survival. This was a fundamental reimagining of what life could be. Della's crystalline form began to pulse with an almost rhythmic excitement. Scientific curiosity was replacing her initial fear. What other mysteries did these humans hold? Yuna added the final chemical treatment, her movements precise and calm. To her, this was just another day in the laboratory. She had no idea of the cosmic revelation she was presenting to these alien students. The experiment continued, each moment revealing more about human biological capabilities than decades of previous research. And the classroom watched, held in a state of complete breathless wonder. The holographic display erupted with a cascade of colors and molecular representations that left the alien students speechless. Della's crystalline body began to pulse, with an intense vibration, her internal sensors struggling to process the impossible biological data streaming before her. Yuna's tissue sample was doing something that contradicted every known scientific understanding of cellular behavior. Where other biological systems would have collapsed, this human sample was not just surviving, it was thriving. Radiation levels that would have instantly destroyed most known life forms became nothing more than a mild stimulus. The cellular structure absorbed the energy, transformed it, and continued its complex internal processes without even a hint of damage. Kiro's feathered body trembled, his sensory systems overloading with disbelief. Professor Ravi's tentacles stretched out, capturing every minute detail of the experiment. His translation device struggled to find words that could adequately describe what was happening. The human was conducting what she considered a routine procedure, but to the alien students it looked like a fundamental reimagining of biological possibility. The tissue sample began to show remarkable adaptive capabilities. Chemical compounds that would have instantly dissolved any other known biological membrane were being processed, integrated, transformed. It wasn't just surviving, it was learning, changing, responding in ways that defied conventional scientific understanding. Della's internal analysis systems worked overtime. Her species had evolved on a planet with minimal chemical interactions, and the concept of such biological resilience was completely foreign. The human tissue was responding to each new stimulus with a complexity that seemed almost intelligent. Temperature variations were introduced next. Shifts that would have instantly killed most cellular structures became nothing more than a mild environmental change. The cells not only maintained their integrity but seemed to grow stronger, more adaptable with each new challenge. Kiro's feathers cycled through a rapid series of color changes, from nervous yellow to shocked green, then to an almost electric blue. His species communicated through color patterns, and right now, his entire body was screaming scientific disbelief. The holographic display continued to show increasingly complex molecular interactions, where other biological systems would have broken down. This human tissue sample was performing what could only be described as biological miracles. It was absorbing, transforming, adapting, a living system that seemed to have no meaningful limitations. Professor Ravi's academic training across multiple galactic research institutions had never prepared him for this moment. Humans were known as dangerous, as survivors from a deadly planet. But this was something else entirely. This was a fundamental reimagining of what life could be. Yuna remained completely calm, her movements precise and controlled. To her, this was just another day in the laboratory. She had no concept of the cosmic revelation she was presenting to these alien students. The tissue sample continued to surprise them. Chemical treatments that would have destroyed most known biological structures were being processed, integrated, transformed. It wasn't just surviving, it was evolving in real time, responding to each new stimulus with a complexity that seemed almost conscious. Della's crystalline form began to pulse with an almost rhythmic excitement. Scientific curiosity was replacing her initial fear. What other mysteries did these humans hold? What other biological capabilities were hidden within their seemingly ordinary cellular structures? Kiro's sensory systems were overloading. His species had heard stories about humans, about their remarkable biological resilience, but witnessing it was something entirely different. This wasn't just survival. This was a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about life. The experiment continued, each moment revealing more about human biological capabilities than decades of previous research. The tissue sample absorbed radiation, processed complex chemical compounds, survived extreme temperature variations, all while maintaining its fundamental cellular integrity. Professor Ravi's translation device finally found the right words. Impossible, it whispered, and yet happening right before our sensors. The classroom was held in a state of complete, breathless wonder. What other secrets did these humans hold? What other biological miracles were waiting to be discovered? Yuna simply continued her experiment, completely unaware of the cosmic revelation she was presenting to these alien students, and the universe seemed to pause, watching, waiting to see what would happen next. The holographic display suddenly expanded, filling the entire classroom with a three-dimensional representation of molecular chaos and order. Yuna's tissue sample transformed before their eyes, revealing layers of biological complexity that challenged everything the alien students thought they knew about life. Kiro's feathers froze in a state of absolute shock. His sensory systems were registering something impossible. The human cellular sample was not just surviving, but actively reconstructing itself under conditions that would have obliterated any known galactic life form. Della's crystalline body began to pulse with an intense vibration. Her internal analysis systems were working at maximum capacity, struggling to comprehend the biological miracle unfolding before her. The cellular structure was performing what could only be described as a living dance of adaptation and survival. "This," Yuna said quietly, her voice cutting through the tense silence, "is what we consider a standard regenerative response." Professor Ravi's tentacles trembled. Standard? Standard? The word seemed to mock everything he understood about biological science. The tissue sample was absorbing radiation, processing complex chemical compounds, and rebuilding itself with a speed and efficiency that defied all known scientific principles. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing microscopic details that made the alien students lean forward in collective disbelief. Cellular membranes that should have been destroyed were instead rebuilding themselves. Damaged molecular structures were not just repairing, they were improving, learning, adapting with each passing second. Kiro's translation device struggled to process what his sensors were telling him. The human tissue was treating what would be catastrophic damage to any other species as nothing more than a mild inconvenience. Chemical treatments that should have dissolved the sample were being processed, integrated, transformed. Della's internal systems were creating new mathematical models just to explain what she was witnessing. The cellular reconstruction was so efficient, so precise that it almost seemed intelligent. It wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, growing stronger with each challenge. The classroom temperature seemed to drop. Every alien student was experiencing a fundamental shift in their understanding of biological life. Humans were more than just survivors from a dangerous planet. They were walking miracles of biological engineering. Yuna continued her explanation, completely unaware of the cosmic revelation she was presenting. Her hands moved with practiced precision, adding another series of chemical compounds that would have destroyed any other known biological system. The tissue sample absorbed the new compounds like a sponge, its molecular structure dancing and reforming with an almost casual efficiency. Radiation levels that would have instantly killed most life forms became nothing more than a mild stimulus. Professor Ravi's academic training across multiple galactic research institutions had never prepared him for this moment. His translation device finally found the right words. "Extraordinary adaptation," it whispered. "Beyond comprehension." Kiro's feathers cycled through a rapid series of color changes: shock, wonder, fear, and something that might have been respect. His species had evolved on a planet with minimal environmental challenges, and here was a biological system that seemed to laugh in the face of impossible conditions. The holographic display continued to show the tissue sample's remarkable journey. Temperature variations, chemical treatments, radiation exposure. Each challenge was met not with destruction, but with transformation. The cellular structure was learning, growing, adapting in real time. Della's crystalline form began to pulse. With an almost rhythmic excitement, scientific curiosity was replacing her initial fear. What other mysteries did these humans hold? What other biological capabilities were hidden within their seemingly ordinary cellular structures? Yuna finished her procedure, placing her tools down with a casual movement that seemed to mock the cosmic revelation she had just presented. To her, this was just another day in the laboratory. The classroom remained silent, held in a state of complete, breathless wonder. The human tissue sample continued its miraculous dance of survival and adaptation, a living testament to the incredible resilience of human biology. And in that moment, everything they thought they knew about life changed forever. The laboratory fell into a silence so deep it felt like time itself had stopped. Professor Ravi's tentacles slowly retracted, his multiple sensory organs processing the incredible demonstration they had just witnessed. Yuna began cleaning her equipment, completely unaware of the cosmic revelation she had just presented. To her, this was a routine experiment, something she had done countless times during her academic training. Her movements were calm, practiced, almost mundane. Kiro's feathered body continued to pulse with colors of shock and wonder. His species had heard stories about humans, about their remarkable survival capabilities, but witnessing it was something entirely different. The biological miracle he had just seen challenged everything he understood about life. Della's crystalline form vibrated with scientific excitement. Her internal systems were creating new mathematical models, attempting to comprehend the impossible cellular adaptations they had observed. The human tissue sample had survived conditions that would have instantly destroyed any known galactic biological structure. Extraordinary, Professor Ravi finally whispered, his translation device struggling to capture the depth of his amazement. Humans are not just survivors. They are living miracles of adaptive biology. The holographic displays continued to show molecular representations of the experiment, each replay revealing new layers of complexity. The tissue sample had absorbed radiation, processed complex chemical compounds, and survived temperature variations that would have obliterated most known life forms. Alien students began to whisper among themselves. Their initial fear of the human student was transforming into something else, a mixture of respect, wonder, and scientific curiosity. Yuna remained oblivious, carefully packing her research materials. Kiro's sensory systems were overwhelmed. His species had evolved on a planet with minimal environmental challenges, and here was a biological system that seemed to laugh in the face of impossible conditions. The human's casual approach to what seemed like a miraculous experiment was, perhaps even more shocking than the experiment itself. Professor Ravi approached Yuna, his tentacles moving with a mixture of academic excitement and profound respect. "Your demonstration," he said, "challenges everything we understand about biological resilience." Yuna looked up, surprised. "It's just a standard cellular regeneration experiment," she replied, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. The other students exchanged glances. Standard? Standard? The word seemed to mock everything they understood about biological science. Della's internal analysis continued. The cellular adaptations they had witnessed were beyond anything in the known galactic research databases. The human tissue sample had not just survived, it had thrived under conditions that would have destroyed any other known life form. The classroom atmosphere began to shift. What had started as a tense, nervous gathering was now filled with a sense of wonder and scientific excitement. The human student had just opened up entirely new avenues of biological research. Kiro's feathers slowly settled into a deep, respectful blue. His initial fear had transformed into something closer to academic admiration. Humans were more than just dangerous survivors. They were walking miracles of biological engineering. Professor Ravi began discussing the implications of the experiment with his colleagues. The potential applications were mind-boggling: medical treatments, space exploration, understanding cellular adaptation on an entirely new level. Yuna continued her routine, completely unaware of the cosmic shift she had just initiated. She packed her equipment, checked her notes, and prepared to leave the laboratory. The alien students watched her, their perception of life forever changed. What other mysteries did these humans hold? What other biological capabilities were hidden within their seemingly ordinary cellular structures? As the classroom slowly came back to life, one thing became clear. Humans were not just another species in the vast galactic community. They were something else entirely, living proof that life could adapt, survive, and thrive under conditions that would destroy most other biological systems. Yuna Park simply smiled, gathered her things, and walked out of the laboratory, leaving behind a room full of alien students whose understanding of life had been completely transformed.